Food rescue organisation SA Harvest is calling on logistics industry to help reduce food waste and hunger. It says logistics plays a vital role in food rescue by helping to ensure that food is collected before it spoils. At the moment, 1,000 tons of citrus fruit is being donated over the next 4 months. This requires monthly collections from Mbombela in Mpumalanga to warehouses in Johannesburg and Durban. Alan Brody, who's the CEO and founder of SA Harvest, speaks to us now. Thank you very much for making the time to join us this afternoon, Alan. And maybe if you could just start by painting a broad picture around the major issues that are surrounded with hunger in the country at the moment, and of course the wastage of food.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yes, hunger and the lack of food is a catastrophe in South Africa at the moment, and I mean, I use that word advisedly. 20 million people are food vulnerable, some of whom are millions of whom are going to sleep hungry every night, including, to our shame, millions of our children. And we rescue food that would have gone to waste. 10 million tons of food goes to waste every year, while all these people are hungry. And this is, of course, as I say, a catastrophe. So 10 million tons of food goes to waste, and we rescue that food and we deliver it to people in need. Now, as you say, we have received a donation of all these citrus boxes, and we need to transport those to our Durban branch, our Johannesburg branch, and then redistribute to our other 2 branches in the country. So we are desperately in need of logistics help.
Yeah, and maybe just paint a picture for us there, Alan, the vital importance of the logistics industry and them heeding the call that you have made to come on board to make sure that this 10.3 million tons of food that's wasted annually in South Africa is reduced and maybe even alleviated completely.
Yeah, well, what you say is so true. You know, if you take the 10 million tons of food that goes to waste, it is equivalent, as we measure a meal in our industry by weight, this is equivalent to nearly 30 billion meals every year, while 20 million people who need the food, if you feed them 3 good meals a day for a year, is 20 billion. So just in the food waste alone, we could reduce so significantly the lack of meals, the hunger in South Africa. And that's why we take rescuing food that would have gone to landfill so seriously. And this obviously includes the distribution of citrus and other foods that we have been donated.
And of course, it's not just about making sure that people have food in their stomachs and that we don't waste food. There are major environmental benefits to the reduction of this food wastage. Tell us a little bit about those benefits, particularly in an era where we're talking about climate change and changing the way that we do things, not just in South Africa, but across the world.
Yeah, absolutely. This is vital. You know, if you took the waste that goes to landfill, it is responsible mainly for the emission of methane gas, which in many ways is worse than the carbon dioxide. So we, by rescuing this food, prevent the food from going to landfill and contribute hugely to the improvement of the environment. If you took landfills worldwide, in terms of its emission of damaging gases, it would be number 3 in the world if landfill were a country. First would be America, and second China, and then landfill. So it becomes a very serious problem from an environmental point of view. So by rescuing food from going to landfill, we kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We kill 2 enormous birds with 1 stone.
And then, of course, you have only all been in business since 2019, and I'm talking about SA Harvest Year, but the work that you've been able to accomplish over the last 3 or so years has been quite significant. Tell us how many meals you've been able to deliver, but also the waste that you've been able to reduce over the last few years.
So, yeah, I mean, we over the last 3 years have delivered 40 million meals to people in need all over the country. And that has been quite an achievement. I mean, on one hand, it is something we're proud of, and our team has been absolutely magnificent. But mainly our beneficiaries, those to whom we deliver the food, have been something out of this world. And we meet with them every day and deliver to them every day. And these are people who themselves aren't in a great financial situation, but they are really like angels from heaven in the way they are dedicated to what they do with great suffering. And, it's been quite an experience. But, while being proud and while seeing this work, the fact that we have the need and for so many millions of meals, because we aren't the only ones in South Africa that do it. The other great organizations like Gift of the Givers, like Food Forward, these are people like ourselves who spend every day delivering food, and it's just such a tragedy that there is such a need. And if you take the work of organizations like these and ourselves, and you measure the amount of methane gas that is prevented, it becomes millions of tons. So altogether, I think that South Africa can be proud of the people that do this work, and hopefully one day we'll be able to reach a stage where we end hunger in South Africa. That's certainly SA Harvest's mission. And we understand that through charity, while it's absolutely necessary at the moment because of the state of hunger, charity in the end does not end hunger. And it alleviates it, obviously. It keeps people alive. It helps children to get nutritious meals and stop stunting and the inability to concentrate at school. Is just massive what lack of food and lack of nutrition does to our children. So in that way, we're doing work, but it doesn't end hunger. What ends hunger is the systemic intervention. And, sections 27 and 28 of our Constitution, the Bill of Rights, state very clearly. 27 says that every South African has the right to food. And section 28 says that every child has the right to nutrition. And it's not happening. And all of us have to work towards helping the government to institute sections 27 and 28 and end this misery in our country.
It's important to recognize that it's not just the job of government to end this crisis in the country that we have. But as a final thought, Alan, tell us a little bit about load shedding and if it's impacted the work that you do. Obviously, food is going off a lot faster than it would traditionally because of the load shedding. So has that made your job that much more difficult, or are you finding it's operations as usual?
Well, I mean, in a sense, it doesn't really make our job more difficult. One lives with it like we all live with it, and we make a plan. But load shedding has caused one of the most, important effects on food and hunger is the inflation of food prices. If you take chickens, for example, they can't be slaughtered in time, and we have huge waste of chickens. The last figure we heard, about 10 million chickens that are unable to be slaughtered in time. And what happens is, in the end, those chickens go to waste. I mean, we and organizations like ourselves can't pick up live chickens. It's just not part of what we can do, and nobody can pick up these chickens because the demand becomes so high. And what happens is the food price gets inflated. The biggest cause of hunger in our country from a first principle level is the price of food. People can't afford to access nutritious food. They run out of money, or they have to buy from supermarkets where the prices are too high. So food inflation is a very damaging factor for hunger in our country, and this should be controlled, and it isn't.
Thank you very much for those insights, Alan Brody, who's the CEO and founder of SA Harvest, speaking about the involvement of the logistics industry in ending hunger and, of course, food wastage. Let's